Hello, my name is Ryan Harp, and this is assignment number 3, project number 2 for FTT 104, Gunsmithing Tools Lab. So for this assignment, it's a two-part assignment. We have to field strip and perform a functions check on the firearm that we're going to be using for our final project. So as with the last video, the firearm that I'm using is a Smith & Wesson model 2.0. It's going to be chambered in 9mm. As with always, anytime we pick up a firearm, we want to ensure that we're aware of the status of the firearm, ensuring that the chamber is clear, it's free of any ammunition, and always keeping it pointing in a safe direction. So we're going to both visually and physically check that both the chamber and the magazine well is clear, so no source of ammunition. The other thing we always want to make sure is that our work area never contains any live ammunition. Here today for the functions check, we do have a magazine, so the magazine is clear of any ammunition, and we have 5 snap caps, so put no live ammunition anywhere in the work area. So now that we checked, we know that the weapon is clear, free of any ammunition. The next thing we're going to do is start our takedown process. So to field strip the Smith & Wesson model 2.0 9mm, first thing you need to do is cycle the slide to the rear, lock it in place. Then we're going to rotate this takedown lever. So once that takedown lever is rotated 90 degrees, the next step is we're going to push down. The unique thing to Smith & Wesson compared to Glock, it's got a sear release on the inside. So I don't know how clearly you could see that, but you just use a tool and you can push down that sear release lever. And once you push that down, it's about a 45-degree angle that you push that down. It's right there, if you can see it on the video. Then this allows you to remove the slide, the barrel, and all the components without having to pull the trigger, which is a feature about the Smith & Wesson models that I like. So what we're going to do, after we've got the sear takedown lever and the takedown lever, or the sear release lever and the takedown lever turned, is we're going to release the slide, and that'll allow the slide to fly off straight forward. So now with the lower receiver, this is as far for field stripping as we're going to take it down. The point of field stripping is to be able to take the gun apart in a field environment and do any type of cleaning, maintenance, or remedial action that you need to make the weapon serviceable again. So the lower receiver is down as far as it will get taken down. So now with the slide in the upper receiver, the first step we're going to do is we're going to remove the recoil spring. So to remove the recoil spring, just pull up and the force will come slightly backwards. So then the next step is going to be to remove the barrel. Removing the barrel on this firearm is simple. You just give a little upward force, slide the barrel forward a little bit, and then lift it up, and you're able to remove the barrel at a slight angle. So reassembly is quite the same, just in the opposite order. So we're going to put the barrel back into the slide, slide it down a little bit, and then slide it back until it locks into place into the slide. So the next part is going to be putting the recoil spring in. So the Smith & Wesson recoil springs are usually painted blue on the front end, so to give a visual cue that you're installing it to the right direction. So you're going to push the recoil spring back into its housing, give a little force to the back end and push down slightly. And then if you see on the barrel, on the locking lug down here, there's a little cutout where the spring will slide in and rest in its place. So then now the next step is going to be to reattach the slide to the barrel, or slide to the lower receiver. So to do so, on the bottom of the slide, there's these little grooves that follow all the way up, and the 2.0 has a little bit longer rails than the 1.0 to allow the slide to fully sit onto the frame. So you're just going to match up those rails and slide the slide back, locking it into place. When you lock it into place, just rotate that takedown lever back and you will re-engage the takedown lever, allowing the slide to function. So now that it's a reassembled weapon, the next thing that we're going to do is the functions check. If you remember, we had to push the sear release lever to take the firearm down versus pulling the trigger. So since we're going to be performing a functions check, if you do not replace that sear release lever back to its upright position, it will not actively perform a functions check. As soon as you push a live magazine in or a magazine in period, it'll automatically push that back up into its upright position. But our first functions check is going to be done with no ammunition, no snap caps, just the weapon itself. So the first thing we're doing with a functions check is just verifying the slide, verifying the action works. So this firearm, the only safety that is equipped with is going to be the trigger safety. So the trigger safety, if you look here in the trigger, well, it's got this detent that must be pushed in order for the trigger to function. So mind you, we verified that this weapon is free of any ammunition. There's no ammunition in the work area, and we are going to be operating the trigger at this point in time. Right now we're going to test the safety first. So without pushing the detent in the front of the trigger, we see that the trigger seizes and the rest of the movement will not pull. So there's no striker fire, there's nothing like that. So then the next step is going to be an actual firing of the trigger, ensuring we hear the metallic click of the firing pin fall. And then after that, we're going to reset the slide to ensure that the hammer, or not the hammer, but the striker locks in place, and listen for the re-engagement of the sear as we slowly release the trigger. So now pulling the trigger, striker releases. At that point in time, the slide will function. This is where your extraction and ejection will take place. So now that the slide is cycled, we're going to release pressure on the trigger, and you hear the metallic click, ensuring that the striker resets and the sear is re-engaged. So now the next step is going to be perform that functions check with some snap caps, just to ensure that our extraction and ejection are working appropriately. So I'm just going to load 2 snap caps for this. So again, only snap caps, no live ammunition. No live ammunition in the weapon. Ensure the magazine well, chamber are clear. So I'm going to put the feed source in, and we're going to release the slide. So as you release the slide, it's going to suck up chamber round. On most semi-automatic pistols, there's some kind of peaking window so you can verify the status of your chamber. So I doubt you could see it on the video, but if you look into there, you can see the red color of the snap cap through the window, so we know that the feeding mechanism worked. So again, we're going to test the safety on the trigger. Trigger safety works. Next step is going to be the firing pin, ensuring that the striker fire works. So slowly pull the trigger back. Okay, so that we hear the trigger fall. The next thing that we're going to do is ensure the extraction and ejection works. So when we're doing that, I'm going to slowly pull back, observe the chamber, ensure that the round has been grabbed by the extractor, and then once we get to the point of the ejector, ensure it ejects that next round, slowly cycle it forward, ensuring it picks up the next round. So listen for that metallic click. We got the click, so the sear is back re-engaged. So we're going to run through one more time. Pull the trigger, firing pin strikes, round begins to extract, round ejects, and then because we have an empty magazine, we ensured that the slide stop is engaged, and it stops the slide where it's supposed to. So again, this is the field stripping and functions check of a Smith & Wesson M&P 9 M2.0.